go. The little poll activity, which we've done. So results are pretty tied into the I'd love to know more about the program. So that's the aim of the session today. It's to share what the program is, what the role of Garden Guide is, and hopefully you'll feel more comfortable deciding whether you'd like to join as a volunteer. So housekeeping, yes, Connie has already mentioned. Thank you for that. We'll be recording this. If you don't feel comfortable, just please turn off your camera. And introductions, just before we begin, I'm Sofia. I'm the Urban Ecology and Biodiversity Officer here at Darebin, and I support the Gardens for Wildlife program along with our group of amazing volunteers. So you'll know more in a little bit, but here we have Kate with us tonight, who is the Garden Guide lead volunteer, and she'll talk us through the details of the program. And we also have Connie, who is our volunteering programs officer, and she'll also talk a little bit about what is it like to volunteer in Darebin. So I'll let them introduce themselves in a bit, but just so that you know who's going to be presenting. We want to make this session short and sweet, and then at the end we'll have time. I should put the agenda. We'll have time for questions. So feel free to pop the questions at any time in the chat. And then at the end, we'll go through them. Hopefully we'll respond most of them. If not, we can do a follow-up email. Okay. So now before we go into what the program is, I'd like to start by acknowledging that the program is run in Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung country, the lands that today we call Darebin, and I want to pay my respect to elders past, present, and future, and extend those respects to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander colleagues that are here with us today. This program is building on that caring for country that Aboriginal people have been doing on these lands for thousands of years. So it's really great that we're able to contribute through this program into building this habitat to care for our animals or plants within our own homes. So that's pretty amazing, and you'll hear all about how that happens and what the role of our volunteers is in this space. I'll hand it over to Kate.
Thanks, Sophia. So I'll just do a quick intro. My name is Kate Jost. I have been co-leading this program with Darebin for I think 2 or 3 years now. It's a bit of a blur, so please let me know. Forgive me for not giving you an accurate time frame. I also volunteer my time in Darebin as the president of Friends of Edwards Lake, and as well as a committee member for Murray Creek Management Committee, and also Friends of Murray Creek, and various other things relating to wildlife, including Zoos Victoria and Wildlife Victoria. So I guess that gives me a bit of hopefully some merit about restoration projects, Indigenous plants, and the way that wildlife interacts with our urban spaces, and particularly in Darebin. So a little bit of why Gardens for Wildlife is so important. I don't think I have to tell many people on this call that biodiversity is in crisis. It is all over our media and our news, and our politicians talk about it at convenient times, and some of them help contribute to the biodiversity crisis, and some of them are helping with programs such as this to get out of it. There's also a whole lot of threats to wildlife in urban areas. It's not easy being a member of wildlife in an urban area surrounded by houses and cars and pets and possibly habitat that they don't particularly like. And the program is really about how to not only create them habitat based on Indigenous plants, but also how to live respectfully and harmoniously with them. There's a whole lot of threats and hazards out there for wildlife in various different forms, depending on species, and as well as helping people understand what type of plants to put in their garden, it's also providing some kind education for those that may not understand some of the impacts that maybe they're contributing to with something simple like littering or pets or the use of insecticides or fruit netting is a big one as well. So there's lots that people don't know, and bringing them along on the journey is what is good for wildlife, and making us all guardians for them. Just the next slide, Sophia. So the goals of Gardens for Wildlife, we've got 5 amazing waterways in Darebin, being the Merri, the Darebin, Central, Salt Water, and Edgars Creek, and it's a lot of open spaces in between. And that's generally where wildlife likes to live in that habitat. The program is about connecting those habitats. If you're a teeny tiny lizard and you need to move out of home, it's a big challenge to move to new habitat, new territory, meet another cute lizard and hopefully reproduce. If you have to walk across the whole of Darebin where there's no habitat for you to rest, possibly reproduce, take shelter, and various other things. So the point of the program is to connect private land with open space and create wildlife corridors and safe places of sanctuary. So when wildlife is moving, regardless of their form, whether they can fly or whether they walk or whether they slither, or whether they're a teeny tiny insect that can only fly 40 metres at a time before they've got to have a break, has somewhere to do that. It's also about building that confidence level and that skill and that knowledge base within the community, and not only within the garden guides, but then onto garden participants as well, so they can start that journey of restoring country with Indigenous plants and advocating for wildlife. It's so far we've seen quite positive outcomes with people who do plant their garden with Indigenous plants, and that connectivity, but also really positive outcomes within community and very positive outcomes with connecting with neighbours and feeling like they're doing meaningful work. So, which is also important to strengthen community connections in Darebin. So we only just visited a participant this afternoon who was talking about how all of their neighbours are now doing their nature strips, and they've been out there doing working bees, and young couple that moved into the area and didn't know a lot of people, and now they know all of their neighbours and things like that. So there's some really positive impacts for the human species as well as advocating and creating space and sanctuary for wildlife, which also has a flow-on effect for the positive benefit of the well-being of humans and not just wildlife as well. So it was very lovely interaction as we were leaving. The neighbour came over and said hello, and I picked that up at the shop for you. You got a brand new baby and things like that. And there's all of those lovely serendipitous things as the insects were buzzing around their newly created home that was only 12 months old. There's all of these other wonderful connections that can come from a program like this as well. So a benefit to all species. Next slide, please. So the Gardens for Wildlife program started in the mid 2010s, that's what we're calling it, isn't it? I'm pretty sure. And it started with Knox City Council, with the Knox Environment Society, and they've been going strong. They then built a board, Gardens for Wildlife, with various different people across industry to build a really strong network and get councils advocating for this use of private land to create corridors for wildlife. We have really strong relationships with our neighbouring councils, which is Banyule and Merribeck being the newest program. They're probably 12 months old at this present moment in time, if I've got my timing right. And we've just had Whittlesea come on board with their Gardens for Wildlife program as well as having our neighbours to the south, City of Yarra and City of Melbourne, also having a really strong program. So there's opportunities to network with other council areas and learn about various different EVCs, or ecological vegetation classes, which we will learn lots about if you decide to apply and are successful. Next slide. So in terms of how the relationship works with Darebin, so there's a whole lot of volunteers. The program is co-led with volunteers. It's not all on council, and it definitely needs volunteers to survive and thrive. And those volunteers come in two different shapes. So one is the garden guides, and then one is my role, which is the garden guide lead. Perhaps there's a new lead in here when I've decided that my knees are too tired. But then we work in with Sophia as the Darebin officer, and then we work in with the Indigenous nursery. So there's two nurseries that one is in Darebin, one is just outside of Darebin, but service the Darebin area and grow plants with the correct provenance and the right species for that ecological vegetation class, which is grassy open woodlands. So that's VINC, or Victorian Indigenous Nursery Co-op, and also the nursery at the La Trobe Bundoora campus, which is recently been renamed Namjak Tambaran, which means respect the waterway. So definitely fitting in with those values and helping us grow wonderful plants that our participants can use, that are also used to supply council projects as well as Friends of and other land care projects. Next slide. So the role of a garden guide volunteer. So what garden guides do is people will register their interest for a visit. So we have a link that's open, and people will say, yes, please, I'd like a visit. They'll then schedule those visits. Typically it's 2 visits per month at a minimum. So we have a lot of interest. As soon as Sophia opens up the link again, it's normally full quite quickly. It's a very popular service. And then we go into people's homes and we provide them advice based on their unique needs. There's then some report writing that's done. Please don't let that overwhelm you. You get to spend quite a significant time with me in the first instance, making sure that you feel confident enough to write those reports, that you feel confident enough with species selection and various other things. There's also quite a number of reports that you could draw from in the system. It's also a bit of self-learning as well. So Indigenous plants have been a bit of a mystery in our community and certainly in Western culture for a period of time. And it's through this program and through other programs and learning and you know the knowledge of First Nations people that we're able to start advocating for them again and returning them into country. So it's certainly something that takes a curious mind and someone who's interested in Indigenous plants and wants to learn. So there's opportunities where we do that as a group, and we'll take walks through various different open spaces at different times of the years to see the different ebbs and flows of those plants and whether they're flowering or seeding or, you know, looking a bit drab at the moment, to be perfectly honest with you, because they've just finished seeding. But also that curious mind needs to continue to develop as well. And that's certainly something that I do myself. I'm constantly reading, learning and various other things. So it is, I think it's quite enjoyable. There's also various different volunteer inductions and meetings and various other things. It's not too laborious. Like, I think we probably have a handful of meetings a year. So I don't want you to think that you're in for a weekly meeting, because that would be a very inaccurate reflection. Next slide. All right. So in terms of garden visits, they come in all different shapes and forms. So the majority of them are residents that have either moved in the area, just heard about the project, have finally got around to looking at the garden for whatever reason, interest, time, money, resources, whatever the case may be. We do sometimes get some schools and some businesses that also want to register for a garden visit, which we're also very happy to facilitate. So they log onto the website, submit a form, and we get all of that information before the appointment. The garden guides then contact that person and schedule it in an agreeable time to both parties. So we work in pairs. They'll then go out and conduct the visit. And really important to note that you're not expected to have all of the answers at that moment in time. You can certainly take things on notice and come back to them. And you give them a wee little kit that has like a tote bag and a sticker and a plant voucher for 10 free plants to get them started on their journey. Then you go back and write the report and send it off to them with various different advice and plant recommendations, and to create habitat and to advocate for wildlife in their garden, regardless of its size, shape, or form.
This is me. Is that right?
Yes, you are the Anna.
That is me. Hello, everyone. My name is Connie, and I'm the Volunteer Programs Officer with Darebin. Want to give a quick shout out to Rosie, who is a volunteer with Bundoora Park Farm. It is awesome to see you on the chat, on the call. So a bit about what I do. I support council-led volunteer programs. So you will see my face or my name pop up along the way, particularly around the application and the initial pre-screening and onboarding, but then of course at any events that we hold, which I'll touch on in a moment. So in terms of the benefits of volunteering, I don't think it's a surprise to anyone that we know volunteering can have a multitude of benefits, and here we've just listed a few. So from the offset, you become part of what's called the Darebin Volunteer Network, where you can meet fellow volunteers who obviously not only volunteer in the program you're in, but in other programs as well. You'll be able to share your skills and knowledge with others, as well as, through training and experiences, build on your existing skills and your knowledge. Of course, feedback is welcome. If you do have ideas that you want to suggest, either directly to Kate, Sophia, or myself, we are always looking for new ways to improve our overall, or I guess our broader volunteer program. So it might not be specific to Gardens for Wildlife, but the council-wide program more broadly. You'll be invited to certain events that happen across the calendar year. So our big one is during National Volunteer Week, which is coming up in May. And then, of course, I'm here as an extra point of contact at council. So if you do need additional help or have more questions, I'm available as well. Okay, next slide. Yep, so this is me again. So in terms of what the next steps look like, so it will be submitting your expression of interest, and what I will do is towards the end of this, I'll actually pop in the chat the link to the registration form, so you can find that nice and easy. If you don't want to apply right now, that's okay. You can jump on council's website, and I'm sure we'll send through how to do that. And so you will submit just a very short application form or a registration form that will then be sent through to Sophia and Kate, where candidates will be shortlisted, and then you'll be contacted. And those who in this instance may not be successful, we'll have your information on hand. So if other opportunities do come up, we'll get in touch for sure. Then interviews will happen. So again, that will be with Kate and Sophia. And then once the successful applicants have been determined, that's when you'll hear from me again. And that's when we do what's called our pre-screening. So in order to participate as a volunteer in this program and most of our programs, it's a police check and a working with children's check. And so I'll show you how, or explain how to do these. And both are at no cost to you as a volunteer. Then you will attend a training session So again, Kate, Sophia, and myself, we will be there, and the date's already locked in. So if you can pencil that in, that will be great, because it's really, really important that you do attend this training session. It's yeah, I attended the previous one and it was fantastic, and you will just gain such valuable knowledge and be really set up for success in this program. So yeah, please pop it in the diary. And then finally, completion of paperwork. So once the pre-screening has been finished, you've attended the training session, what we do share with you is a role description and a volunteer agreement. So we ask you to sign and return that. So it ensures that you know what's expected of yourself and of the program, and you know what's expected of us as well as the organization hosting you as a volunteer. And of course, along the way, if you do have questions, again, you can reach out directly to myself or to Sophia. Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks both, Kate and Connie. That was great. Now we will open up the floor for questions. You can pop them in the chat. You can raise your hand as well and unmute yourselves if that's easier. And I'll read them out loud, the ones that come through the chat, and then we'll try to respond as best as we can. We already have a question in the chat. I'll read it. So I would like to know what the age criteria for volunteers is. Connie, do you have
Yeah,
that one?
So each program is very different, and it is dependent on the risks. So what we'll do is we do a risk assessment for each program. In terms of age, most of our programs are 18 and over, due to the nature of the role. So this particular role obviously involves volunteers without supervision. There's no council staff member there with them. It's the two volunteers together, often entering a person's home or at least attending, whether it's a backyard, front garden, something like that. So it would be a case-by-case basis. Anything under 15 would require a parent or guardian present. And that's pretty standard across volunteer programs. Again, each program will do it a little bit differently. Some will not due to the risks, some will not allow volunteers under 18. But again, it's case-by-case basis. So hopefully that answers your question. It's not as straightforward as we'd like, but it might give you a bit of an insight. Alternatively, there are other environmental volunteering programs out there. So as Kate mentioned before, the various Friends of groups, where it is not less formal, that's not the right way to explain it, but in terms of the risk mitigation, there's different practices in place that way. In terms of how many programs there are, again, if you jump onto, and I can pop the link there, our website, it's set in two ways. There's volunteer programs with council, where we have around 9 or 10. Not all are recruiting at the one time. Some will do once a year, some will be ongoing. So it all depends, and it lists there if it's opened or closed. Then there's also volunteering in the community. So we have another page, and I'll pop this all here, where you can scan through. I think at this point there's over 50 organisations local to Darebin who are looking for volunteers, and it's set out according to sector or criteria. So it helps you navigate your search that way. So I'll pop those links in the chat for you there.
Thanks, Connie. That's great. Yep. We have another question coming. When would the visit start if we get accepted and go through all the training and paperwork? Great question. Kate, would you like to take that one on?
Yeah, sure. So I would think probably late July, early August, but that can be up for negotiation as well. If there's some sort of commitment in terms of a holiday or various other personal reasons, then we would be able to work around that. That's not a problem.
Perfect. So, Kate, would you like to maybe expand a little bit more on what happens once, like after the session and the paperwork gets done? How do
Sure.
volunteers, like the avenues that volunteers have to upskill themselves?
Sure. So after we complete the paperwork and go through the training, you then either get the pleasure or pain of spending a lot of time with me and shadowing through appointments. So, and I won't release you into the wild until you feel ready. So, Indigenous plants are, if you're not familiar with them, there may be some people in here who perhaps have more knowledge than me. Who knows? Time will tell. But that's typically what happens. So I'll schedule visits with you at convenient times between the three parties, so myself, yourself, and the garden participant, and we'll meet. And generally, it's me running through the garden visit, you shadowing, asking questions. We always let the garden participant know that that you're new and that you're learning, and there'll be some questions, and maybe I'll explain things in a particular way, and it's good for them to learn as well. So some volunteers have been quite quick to move through that process for various different reasons: experience, knowledge, confidence levels. I don't know, maybe some didn't like spending a hell of a lot of time with me. Hopefully not, but I don't think so. And some of that has lasted for 6 months. And there are some volunteers that want to continue to shadow and move into that role at a more slower pace. And, you know, some of them are at 18 months, which is totally fine, because I also need a partner when I'm going out and doing the garden visits. So if people want to continue to do it with me, that's not a problem either.
Thank you, Kate. Yeah, so that being said, as you can see, there's not one level of knowledge or expertise that you need to have. As long as you have that interest to learn, to go to visits, to keep upskilling yourself in that space, then that's all you need. And we encourage you to apply. And that gets me to Alice is asking, will there be another intake at some point? She won't unfortunately be able to attend the training session. We still encourage you to apply. We won't be doing any other recruitment soon, because as you can see, it takes a while to train volunteers. We encourage you to still apply, and even though it's highly encouraged you attend the session, you know, we can
We can work
figure
around it.
it out, and and seek other ways in which you can get the necessary resources to do your role. So that wouldn't be a barrier. And we still encourage you to apply. There are no more questions in the chat. If anyone has any other question that they like to hop in there now. No worries. So another question coming. I'm due to give birth beginning of August. Congrats. Oh, really soon. Yes. I'm really keen to do the training. Do you think I can still apply? I reckon, like, up to you. But yeah, if you're keen, absolutely go for it. Like, again, this is a volunteering role, so it's not like anything strict that you have to do 2 visits per month. You have everything is like a recommendation of the amount of time that you should be investing. But of course, life happens, you know, you're volunteers, so we can
We also
absolutely
can't
negotiate
discriminate
those
against
things.
you for being
But that,
pregnant. We also can't discriminate against you for being pregnant, so you can absolutely apply. And we will
yeah,
also we will also make it work. And like the way that I see it is you're creating another volunteer, so that's excellent. It's 2 for 1.
Peter is asking what the selection criteria for the application are. So, Kate, sorry, Connie, would you like to talk through a little bit of what the application form actually looks like?
Yeah.
And then we can talk maybe more about characteristics.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the application form it's very short. They're standard questions that we use across all of our programs, so quite general in terms of, you know, your motivations, what you think you could bring to the particular role or areas that you'd like to learn, as well as there's, you know, any additional information that you'd like to share as well. And so that gets sent through. So anything that you can share with us that you think would, you know, make you a good fit for this particular role, that's what Sophia and Kate will see. The other thing to note is, you will see, and I might share it in the chat as well, where we have got the role advertised is a bit more information about, you know, some of the expectations, I guess, or the skills and the, I think it's under, yeah, skills and experience or skills and attributes. So that might help you as well to look at what, I guess, what a good fit for this particular program looks like. So it sort of starts a bit more general, and then through the interviews, it becomes a lot more specific to the program.
Yeah, thank you. I guess just, yeah, to summarize a little bit of that, it's important thing to have is good communication, because you'll be interacting directly with community members and others and fellow volunteers as well, volunteers from other programs, and you'll be translating, you know, knowledge of conservation knowledge, and you have to adapt it to different audiences depending on who you're talking to. So communication is a big one. And as we said before, curiosity, compromise, enthusiasm, all of those things, because really, if you're gonna be a volunteer, you need to like really be willing to learn from others. As Kate was saying, lots of, you know, sharing resources and videos and reading. We do a lot of that as part of this role. And also a very important one is to be comfortable using a computer, because that's the tool, the main tool we use to create the reports that we then send back to participants. And that's the way that we connect as a group of volunteers as well. We share resources in Microsoft Teams folder. So being comfortable using a computer as well. Those are the main ones, I would say. Yeah. Okay. I can't see any other questions in the chat. Anyone wants to raise your hand and unmute themselves? Or is everything clear? If not, I might just quickly pop another poll just to close and let us know how do you feel after this session in terms of how are you feeling about becoming a garden guide? That doesn't mean that you're gonna say yes or no to applying. It's more about whether you got a good understanding of what it involves and if you feel motivated and inspired to give it a go, or whether you think this is not an opportunity that you are gonna take. Yeah, just curious to see if you can pop your answers in there. That'd be awesome. In the meantime, feel free to keep popping questions in the chat if you have. So great, we have a few people inspired and excited, and just someone else unsure at this stage, wanting more information before deciding, which is great. As Connie said, she's going to send through the link, which has lots more information. Also, if you go to our website, so Gardens for Wildlife Darebin, you have a bit more information of what the program entails, and you can see our resources, the Gardens for Wildlife booklet. And as always, also feel free to reach out to us. You can find the email here. So gardensforwildlife@darebin.vic.gov.au. Reach out to us with any follow-up questions. You'll also find our emails throughout the whole application process. So yeah, reach out. And I think that's it. We'll send out this recording as well. Kate, did you want to say anything?
Just thank you for those that are attending. I can now, I've had a moment to scroll through some of the names and faces. I can see that some of you have been garden participants, and I have absolutely been in your garden. And yeah, I would very much, and those who haven't as well, I would also encourage you to apply and give it a go. It's a really rewarding program, particularly when people follow through and create habitat and have really and provide sanctuary for wildlife. It's got the warmer fuzzies, which certainly helps with all sorts of other things that are happening in the world when you see a little bee on a little flower that someone planted because you gave them that knowledge.
Yeah, it is the best feeling, and hopefully everyone gets to experience that. Yeah.
And can
well,
I just say, sorry, can I
Yeah,
just
no,
say,
go for
as
it,
someone
honey.
who is
Yeah.
a participant
You are a garden
of,
participant as well.
I
came to your
am,
house.
and it was
Yes.
about 18 months ago, and my teeny tiny front garden is thriving, and I love it, and I get compliments about it all the time. And I have a new neighbor who's just moved in, and she said that she's going to do the same thing, to which I suggested wait until the form opens and have a visit. It's just magical to see all the beautiful colors, and just to know that you're contributing that way and making friends at the same time.
Amazing. We have to see some photos, Connie. You need to show me later.
I will share. I will share.
Thank you, everyone, so much for making time in your afternoon to join us. Hopefully this was helpful, and we'll hope to hear from you. Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you all.
See
Bye.
you. Bye.